Well, Susanna, thank you for being here.
First, thank you for having
Um,
me.
yeah.
Mhm.
Um, so why don't you just go ahead and take off and launch into it? And if we have any questions, uh, we'll ask them or anything like that. But really, it's just it's up to you. So if you want to start with your childhood, you can go ahead and do that and give us your story.
My story. Being that it's National Recovery Month and I'm a few weeks out from my 7-year clean date, which is October 6th, I always try
Awesome.
to, thank you. I always try to speaking or sharing my story, at least around my clean date, is very important to me. As far as my childhood, I was adopted at 10 days old. Um, I'm as I'm older now, 53, I'm just now really learning about how much trauma is endured when you are adopted and the severing of the bond between the maternal mother and the baby. And it's helped me kind of start putting pieces of my life together. Um, I had wonderful adoptive parents. I'm not that one who is bitter and angry because they did the best that they could with me, with the resources that they had at the time. Um, I am Puerto Rican, and both of my adoptive parents were Caucasian. My mom was German and Finnish, and my dad was French and Indian. So childhood was very interesting for me because I was always raised in predominantly white neighborhoods, and I was always the darkest thing in the neighborhood, and I would get called nigger and spit on and all types of stuff walking home from school, and my parents really didn't know how to handle that. They weren't equipped for that. So my parents would just tell me to, just kind of talk it out and do the best that I could. And it was kind of hard to talk things out as I'm getting beat up on the way home from school. But my parents provided me with a lot of opportunities. I was probably in every lesson, no demand, dance lesson, ballet, Girl Scouts, break dancing, ballet. I mean, just you name it, they put me in it. Although I was the eternal non-finisher. I would start something, I would get bored, and then I would quit. I never seemed to last in things for too long. I was always a very smart student. I always was a straight A student. But around, they moved me from the neighborhood that I grew up in, which was kind of more like a more mixed kind of neighborhood, to in the middle of nowhere in Downers Grove back in like the 80s, where like there was dirt lots all around us, and there was no real mixture in the neighborhood. I definitely was like a lone wolf out there in the neighborhood, and that's kind of when some things started happening. I mean, I was that kid who would always get in trouble. I was always looking for attention, no matter the kind of attention. It was usually negative, whether it was sticking one of those sharp pointing compasses on a little boy's chair so he sat on it and I poked a hole in his butt, or calling the teacher names, or waiting till my mom went out of town to dress up in her high heels and like fishnet pantyhose at like 12 years old, and my dad just being oblivious to that he probably shouldn't be taking his daughter to school this way, but it just did not connect with my dad. So we moved out into Downers Grove before I went into 8th grade. My 7th grade year prior to leaving was the first time I got sexually assaulted, behind my junior high school. I tried to tell my adoptive mom about it, and she was worried that I would bring shame to the family name, so she didn't want me to report it to the police. So I just kind of ate it, and we never told the police. So I had a lot of self-doubt, lack of self-confidence, very insecure, poor self-esteem. I always wanted to know where I came from because I didn't look like anybody. My parents did tell me as soon as I could understand that I was adopted, but they really didn't know how to teach me about my background and about my heritage. And whenever I would ask questions about my biological mother, my adopted mother would get very defensive and hurt, and I would just drop it. So I mean, I learned just not to talk about it. So I carried a lot of that with me, not realizing the pain that it was causing. Because if I look at the overall big picture of my life from early on, even until now in my 50s, the underlying theme through my whole life has been rejection and abandonment. That's always been my primary issues. And drugs seem to fill that void for me. I found a happy place in drugs, and I found a happy place in the people who supplied me with those drugs. And that started in I was in freshman year of high school is when I first started using. I found my way back to my old neighborhood because of a guy, and he introduced me to cocaine back when it was still pure in the 80s, and I was hook, line, and sinker very fast. But it was like I would use on the weekends, and then I was still going to school, but then it slowly deteriorated over time. Um, one of the things leading up to like a total life change was when I went from cocaine to smoking crack. We had run out of money, and the guy that I was with came up with this master plan on how to get more drugs. So he decided it was a good idea. Okay, we're going to go to the dope spot. You're going to go in the front door. I'm going to go in the back door. I'll get the dope from the back door, and then I'll come around and get you. Well, yeah, he got the dope out the back door, but he traded me in the front door for the dope. So I was left
Wow.
at a trap house, and I was raped by 5 people, and I still have a knife wound on my leg, and I was basically left on the corner for dead at like 98 pounds, soaking wet. I
Well,
hadn't talked to
hey,
my
you
pardon.
said you still have a knife wound on your
Yeah,
leg. Is that
because I
what you
got
said?
stabbed. I got stabbed when I was raped.
Wow.
And it was also back then, it was when they were trying to get me so high that they would put the pipe in my mouth and they pushed my face into the stove and it singed off all my eyelashes, my eyebrows, everything. I was gone. I was gone. And so when I came to on that corner, I tried contacting my best friend. God bless her. She's still my best friend to this day. Um, I tried to get money from her, and she immediately notified my parents to where I was at. And my dad came and found me and tricked me and said that I forgot where he said he was taking me, but I ended up in a psychiatric facility back then for substance abuse treatment, but for all my psychiatric issues as well. And that was back when insurance would let you stay for a very long time. So I was there for about 3.5 months. Um, but it was life changing, but back then, tactics were a lot of different with how they would get people to try to confront their trauma. Probably not the same way they would do it now. But they would have you like beating up pillows and writing letters, to your biological mother and all of these different things. And of course, I ended up having a rehab romance, which only to like get my mind off of what was actually happening. But when I left there after 3.5 months, I could have swore I was fixed. I was clean
Mm-hmm.
and sober. I was no longer using crack cocaine. So I went on about my life, and I had my son at an early age. I had my son at 19. Um, my son was always kind of a sickly kid. And so I decided to go to nursing school. My parents said that they would help me as long as I was doing something positive with my life. So I went to nursing school. I found out as an LPN that I really did not want to stay as an LPN and decided to go on with my degree to get my bachelor's degree. But like I said, I thought I was clean and sober and I was fixed, but I was still drinking everybody under the table and I was still smoking weed. But I swore I was clean. I didn't know about a 12-step program. I didn't know about anything. I just knew I was not doing my drug of choice. So clearly I was not an addict. So that was my assumption at that time. And things were going well. I graduated nursing school with honors. I was going to get married. The guy that I was dating, I had dated for like 12 years. He was a weed smoker. Um, And he proposed to me the day I was graduating from college. I mean, he went home, changed into a tux, came and proposed in front of everybody. It was this big, huge deal. Of course, I said yes. I could tell from the very beginning my parents thought it was a very bad idea, but I was happy. More so, I think, with the idea of getting married, not an actual marriage. So time progressed. I was smoking more and more weed with him, drinking more and more whenever we would get together. That's all we would do. And it wouldn't be until I was older, when I got clean in my 40s, that I put two and two together that I had never had any intimacy with anyone unless I was high. I didn't know what it was like not to be high and be intimate with
Hmm.
somebody. So that's been a whole another thing for me to deal with as an aftermath of my active addiction. So some trauma happened, and during the course of us about to get married, he left to go out of town to go meet his uncle in Japan. I was bringing my son back from a cheerleading competition in Florida. I was supposed to pick him up from the airport, and he never showed up. Nobody would tell me what happened. His family wouldn't talk to me. I had no answers. This sent me into a tailspin. Come to find out years later, he moved to Japan, married somebody else, had six additional children while he's still there. But that sent me
Wow.
into a
Wow.
tailspin, and I became very suicidal.
Hmm.
I tried to take my life, and I went out to, now, mind you, I hadn't been around my drug of choice in like 25 years. I went to a bar. It was like a clusterfuck that just, it was like the perfect storm. I went to a bar that night to get drunk. I walk into the wrong bathroom because I'm drunk, and there's a guy in there and he's smoking crack. And I smelled it
Mm.
and I saw it and I started crying immediately because I knew I was fucked because I wanted it. And I was in an extremely, extremely vulnerable spot. It started as snorting coke, and then it progressed very rapidly to smoking crack again as I was ended up staying with that guy I ran into in the bathroom for the next 10 years of my life, go figure. And about 4 years in, right at the peak of like my nursing career, like in my early 30s, when I had finally become like a part-time hospital nursing supervisor. I was a charge nurse of the adolescent girls unit, inpatient girls unit, the same unit that I was a patient on when I was thrown in the hospital for 3 months as a kid. I became the charge nurse on that very same unit when I got my degree. Um, but things spiraled out of control. Luckily, this is where my higher power, and this is where I know God had a plan way back then. I did not, believe it or not, screw up my nursing license because I fucked it off. I told my boss, fuck you. I left out and I quit, and I spiraled down the rabbit hole for about 10 years back in my active addiction, but I didn't screw up my nursing license. Oddly enough,
Good.
I did not. I let it lapse though. I did let it
Hmm.
lapse, which would, that's another journey that I will get to.
Did
But
you
in the
get your
course of,
master's, or are you just RN right now?
I
Like
have a
bachelor's?
bachelor's in science and nursing and a minor in psychology, and I went back for a
Okay.
special certification in addiction medicine.
Okay.
I have no desire to get my master's.
Okay.
At one point, I had wanted to, and
Yeah.
that's another part of how I am as an addict because I will laser focus on something and go down that rabbit hole and
That's
think
what
that
I still do.
it's like I keep having to have like all these goals. Like I'm never like I'll get this
Yeah.
great certification and all these accolades, and then I'll be like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? Like it's
Yeah.
like there's always something that I have to be striving for, or else I feel like I'm not adding up, or I'm not
Yeah.
living up to what my own expectations of myself are, and probably a little bit of my adoptive mother's expectations. My adoptive mother passed in 2016 before she got a chance to see me clean. She
Mm.
died of end stage bladder cancer.
Mm.
In the house where I was at, believe it or not, I was using in the basement while she was dying upstairs. And as soon as she died, this is the insanity of addiction. I knew from nursing that because she was on hospice at home, I knew all those hospice meds were in the fridge. So I knew before the nurse came to go take out all that morphine, all that Dilaudid, everything, because they wouldn't know any better. Because I could just say my mother used it. And that's what I did. Said my mother used it. Because for some reason, my father Never suspected that I was using again. Don't know how. I was very good at being somewhat functional, but I couldn't hold a job. I forgot to mention during that peak when I got the hospital supervisor position, that's also when I got diagnosed with lupus, and also contributed to my downward spiral because I got very sick very, very fast, and it was very
Mhm.
debilitating. Um, but yeah, my mom never got to see me clean. Clean. Thank God. My dad is 84 and he got to witness me getting clean and sober. So I'm very, very grateful for that. Um, but I was so messed up, and I had this son who I love that kid so much. And they're about to be 35 now. But or they are 35. They did turn 35. Um, But you always think that you're not going to do something in your active addiction until you do. And like I vowed that I was never going to steal from them, but I did. Vowed that I was never going to hurt them, but I did. And I know that I caused significant trauma to my child's life. I am so beyond grateful. I have an incredible relationship with my son. We are extremely close. Um, they also did not realize that I was using. Like, I hid it very well. I kept it away from my son. I never took my son to any, sketchy neighborhoods, environments, never took him along for the why because I had two great parents. I was living at home and I could just leave for there. So, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm still being a great parent. First taken, he's being taken care of very well. If you could probably take my kid's name out of there. Um, they
Yeah.
were being they were being taken care of very well. And so I thought I was all good. I ended up being so broken and suicidal after my mom died, and the fear of having to live with my father, who I had a horrible relationship with. I was actually fearful to live with my dad because they were always very aggressive and somewhat violent with me. Not like physically violent, but they would kind of act like they were going to do something and like just put the fear in me, but never actually did something. Um,
Hmm.
but a lot of that I contributed to that I would learn later. um, but I became so suicidal that I wrote a suicide note to my kid, left it in the basement because I was pretty sure they were going to find me overdosed, and I wanted to explain myself because all my paraphernalia, lighters, everything I was in masses was down there in the basement. Um, but I don't know. I was that strange person that all of a sudden my ex, who I was with, would think I was crazy because I would listen to sermons and gospel music when I was getting high. He thought I was insane. And my response was always, one of these days, something is going to get through to me and I'm going to snap out of this. I promise you, something is going to happen. He's like, well, I can't listen to this with you. I'm like, that's fine. But I'm telling you, at some point, something's going to get through to me. And so I would listen to that, and I would be in tears listening to these sermons, driving to go get dope from the dope man, and then listening to the sermons all the way home. And then it marinated in my brain for months till it did finally do something, and I knew that I needed help. My dad was going out of town for the weekend. My son no longer lived with us. They have their own apartment. And I decided that was the weekend I was going to get help. So I developed this incredible relationship with my primary care physician, who I still love to this day. Um, and I went in, I made an appointment. He came in and asked me what was wrong. And I just blurted out that I had a drug problem and I needed help. And they stopped what they were doing and they spent the day looking for placement for me. And I could not, with my insurance, get any inpatient, but I ended up with a 28-day intensive outpatient program where I was there from 8 to 5, and then we were required either to go to meetings during the week or come back to the center and listen to speakers at the center or go to our NA meeting or AA on site. That was really where I was introduced to a 12-step program, which would ultimately end up changing my life. I felt so amazing going to my treatment program. Like I felt like, wow, that I would get up early in the morning, I would make my coffee, bring my lunch, and I felt like I was on this right path again. Like I'm like, okay, I'm doing something productive. This is wonderful. I think one of the hardest things in that treatment program was, I think we were doing the first step, and you had to invite a close family member in to the center, see if one would actually show up. And you were supposed to, in the group, you were supposed to kind of sit in the center when it was your turn, while everybody else was, or, in a circle, along with whoever that is that you brought in from your family. And I was supposed to sit and listen to how my addiction affected them. And I couldn't say anything. So I just on a whim, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try, and I'm gonna ask my son. I'm gonna see if my son will come up. And they're extremely shy. So I did not think this was going to be something that they would really want to do. But they came. Um, and because they had no idea that I was actually using at the time, I could see all the little light bulbs start coming on in their head. Like, that's why this happened. Oh,
Yeah.
that's why my money went missing. Oh, but you said this happened to all my video games. Like I could just see all the synapses firing in their brain. But I was so grateful that they were willing to start being a part of my recovery journey at that point. Like that was huge for me, because the relationship between myself and my child was very sketchy at best at that point. I thought I basically lost them, because I just mentally I was not around, and they got put in the middle of so many family feuds back and forth between me and my parents, and then they would get put in the middle, and it was a lot. It was a lot for them to have to deal with. But they came, and I graduated from that program. But then I like did not know what the hell to do with myself, because all I knew how to do was get high. Like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, this program is over. Like, they don't, and I was given the suggestion to do 90 meetings in 90 days. And I did well beyond that. I did 4 meetings a day, 7 days a week for 4.5 months, because I didn't know how not to be in a meeting. I burned
Wow.
myself out completely after those 4.5 months with 12-step programs, but it served its purpose for me at that time. I initially started in one 12-step program and ended up in another 12-step program, which I felt more comfortable in. Got myself a sponsor, started working the steps, but I didn't start working the steps for at least a good year. And in that first year, my health had kind of gone to shit, because I had the lupus and I had all these other autoimmune diseases, but I was the worst patient on the planet because I was using, and that took priority over everything. I got fired from multiple doctors except my primary, because I would never show up for appointments. So I took that first year to start getting my health back on track. So that was step number one, and I took to heart when somebody said, and also try not to get into a relationship for the first year, which has not been an issue for me. So I didn't get into a relationship going on, I think we're going on 10 years now. Did not get in a relationship. And then as I'm going to these meetings and I'm getting more and more confident, this is like right before the pandemic, when I decided that I think I wanted my nursing license back. Like, I want to go back to nursing, but I didn't even know how to hold a job. Like, I was collecting disability for a period of time because my lupus was so debilitating. So somebody within the program suggested that I, get a job driving a special needs school bus. So I did, which was probably the best thing for me at that time, because I drove in the morning, I had this bulk off in the afternoon, and then I picked the kids up after school. So I was able to use this whole afternoon time where I planted myself in all these different libraries. And I answered probably 4,000 or 5,000 questions a day on an app on my phone, and listened to all these YouTube videos, because I found out, because I let my license lapse past 5 years, that I now had to sit and retake my state boards all over again, which was very
Mm.
daunting after being out of school since 97. And
Yeah.
my primary specialty had been psychiatric and mental health, and they test you on everything. So I did not know how. And my dad thought I was nuts. My dad's like, why do you want to do that? Like, you just keep on driving this. You can live here. Keep driving the school bus. It's a pandemic. You have a compromised immune system. Why do you want to go back and work as a nurse now during the pandemic? I don't know. I felt a real call to go back during the pandemic. I guess my nursing spidey senses came back to life during the pandemic. So bless my sponsor. So I studied and studied for months, and it was a lot of red tape that I had to jump through with the state of Illinois. Um, because I would send an application that would kept flagging it and send me back stuff going, okay, you're gonna have to explain what is this possession charge? Did it actually get dismissed? What is this DUI charge? This is from, so they sent me multiple different cases that I had, which I knew had been thrown out or dismissed or whatever, but I had to prove that and send back documentation. We're in the middle of a freaking pandemic. So I had to
Yeah.
go down to the courthouse downtown Chicago in the middle of a pandemic, fighting to try to get all this paperwork. And I did. And bless my sponsor, she would drive me downtown and circle the building while I would run in so we wouldn't have to look for parking. And she helped me with that. So I did all that. I finally jumped through all those hoops, and they said, okay, well, we're finally giving you the approval. You can sit for your state boards. I couldn't believe it. Like I never thought I would get to that point. Like it was something when I was using, I would have to pass the hospital I used to work at on my way to the dope spot. And every time I would pass that hospital, I would cry because I'm like, I felt so broken and how I would never get my life back again. So during the pandemic, they cut the number of questions down, but it was right around the time like every nursing student was graduating from a program, and there were limited seats and they were only allowing 6 people in a room at a time, which is not that many people. So they told me if I wanted to take my Illinois state boards, I was going to have to drive to Davenport, Iowa. I'm like, oh, okay.
Wow.
So my sponsor, I'm telling you, I've been this amazing sponsor. She said she would go with me, but leading up to that, and the more praying I did, the more I realized that I needed to do that part of the journey by myself. I needed to go by myself. I had my sponsee family and my sponsor, they were all on Zoom with me on my laptop. I was in the hotel room that night before the next morning, but I knew I had to make the trip by myself because I don't know. I had a lot of conversations with God on that road trip because it was quite a few hours down there. And sometimes it's just nice to sit with yourself sometimes and sit with your thoughts and process the magnitude of everything and the sheer gratitude of even being able to get to that point when I should have been dead or in jail or institutionalized for life. So I went down there. I took the test. I was the first one to finish. Within 48 hours, I had found out I passed. And I screamed at the top of my lungs. My dad thought I was having a heart attack, but I'm like, no, I actually passed my nursing state boards for the first time again. So that was like the beginning of the next chapter of my life, and I was able to get a job at a residential treatment facility where I got hired working with adolescents with substance abuse issues, which was also an eye opener and a game changer. But I found out I was really good at it. I found out that I was able to, I was just me. And what I loved was that I was honest with the person who interviewed me. Like, hey, I'm in recovery. I'm only 3 years clean now, but this is your job. This is my background. I know I can do it if you're willing to give me a chance. She's like, well, I believe in second chances. And I'm thinking, I would hope so, being that you work at this facility, but I didn't say that. If you don't give somebody applying here a second chance, and this is what you're promoting. But that was, I'm very grateful to her for giving me that chance. And I had worked with adolescent girls my entire nursing career in psych, and I vowed I would never work with freaking kids again because it's a lot. That's how I crushed 4 discs in my back the first time around, breaking up a fight with 2 girls. But I started on the adult substance lodge, injured myself, and they brought me back. They're like, well, we can bring you back and you can have being able to sit in a chair if you work on the kids' lodge, since there's only 10 beds. I'm like, the kids? What? But that's where I went. And within a week, I remembered why I loved working with kids. Like they brought so much joy to my life and pain, but so much joy, and they continue to help me stay clean. Me being able to be myself every single day and to share with them and teach them about what the drugs are doing to their body, and them allowing me to do groups and everything was life changing, which was what made me go back and decide to get a certification in addiction nursing. And currently in the state of Illinois, I'm only one of 24 in the state of Illinois who has that certification. Not many people across the country actually have that certification, because I don't think a lot of people know about it. But I was looking for, I had got accepted to a master's program, but then I realized that was a rabbit hole I didn't really want to go down. So I decided, what can I do? I really want to specialize in addiction, and this is what I found. I found that certification. I continue still to go to a 12-step program every week. I still am a trusted servant at my home group. I've tried to sponsor people twice. Neither time did it work out well, and nor have I ever really wanted to sponsor. And I've shared that with my sponsor, because I feel like I'm sponsoring people all day long, all day at work. All I'm talking is recovery for like 8-9 hours a day. And I didn't feel like I would have the bandwidth when I got home to do that for somebody else. But I was always taught that if somebody asked you to be their sponsor, you couldn't say no. So, I mean, the two people that asked me, I didn't say no, but both of them relapsed, no fault of mine. And nobody else has asked me since then. So maybe that's just my particular journey. Things happen for a reason. And I have recently decided to take, along with my recovery story, I just opened my own business where I do healthcare content writing. And I primarily am working with a lot of, I'm currently creating a newsletter for a harm reduction organization in my area, because I'm a very big believer of harm reduction. That is something that I support with a passion. I definitely believe that you need to meet people where they're at. I feel that there is more than one way to recovery. Just because I'm somebody that does a 12-step program doesn't mean that you're somebody that needs to do a 12-step program, because there are a lot of different ways to recovery. And too many people I have witnessed get shut down for not wanting to do like your traditional 12-step program. And it's okay if that's not for you. It's not for everybody. I just know for me, it has helped save my life. Have I become complacent with that 12-step program? Yeah, quite a few times. It took me about 4 years to do the 4th-step. And now I literally am on the 9th step. So now I'm getting ready to do all those lovely little men. So I'm not, I'm kind of slowed down a little bit on that as well. But I really ran through that very quickly and crunched a lot of stuff. There's a lot more to that story. Well, I guess here's what I could tell you. So, because I said that I was adopted at 10 days old. So I've always wanted to know, who do I look like? Who's my biological mother? That has always been something I've wanted to know. So when I turned 18, my uncle, through the adoption. So my adopted dad's brother was the attorney for my adoption case. So when I turned 18, he gave me all of the paperwork that he had for my adoption. So I found out what my biological mother's name was, her last known address, her phone number, all that. Tried reaching out to all that back in like my 20s and 30s, and it was to no avail. And then I just kind of, I was too busy getting high and ruining my life that I just kind of let that go and didn't think about it anymore. But as I am, in recovery, you're literally recovering yourself. As I'm in recovery, I'm trying to recover all the pieces of myself that were broken that I've wanted to know about. So I decided at 53 years old that I was going to start the search for my biological family. And I was very fearful that I was going to be too late, that I waited too long, but I clearly wouldn't have been ready any sooner than this moment. There's a reason why it was supposed to be this moment, and that I've gone through enough of the steps at this time that I know that I'm in a stronger place if something goes sideways, which it very well could go sideways. So I got a search angel who's like the DNA portion, did all my DNA once I did the DNA. And then through the court system in the state of Illinois, you can get what's called a confidential intermediary who has access to all the court records and documents and everything from your actual adoption. And they have access to more information. I was told to request my original birth certificate. At 53 years old, it's the first time that I saw that my biological mother had actually named me. And that was very emotional for me to see an actual name on my birth certificate from my birth mother, because that made me think, well, she had to have loved me enough to name me. Like, I mean, come on,
Yeah.
you don't name, that at least that's what I told myself, is that, my name would have been Migdalia. Migdalia Matias would have been my name, very different from Susanna Mars. Um, very different. And when I told my adopted dad, my dad's like, are you going to change your name now? I said, Dad, it has nothing to do with changing my name. It just means something to me that she named me. I am
Yeah.
not trying to replace my parents. They raised me for all those years. But do I still want to know my biological mother if I can find her? Yes. So we found through DNA my biological father, who passed away. And according to his obituary, which was a little overwhelming for me, there were 23 children listed in his obituary. And I wasn't in that obituary. So clearly he had more than 23 children. So that was
Wow.
too overwhelming for me. I didn't even want to know anymore. That's not who I was looking for. I was like, as bad as that is, I was looking for my biological mom. Well, the confidential intermediary reached out to me 2 weeks ago and said that she has nothing indicating that she's deceased. There are no death certificates, anything out there. And she does have a last known address for her, and she's going to reach out to her. So I'm still in limbo right now, waiting to find out
Well, that was only
what,
2 weeks ago.
yeah, that was only two
Oh,
weeks
okay.
ago.
So you're still, oh, wow.
I'm still in limbo waiting.
Yeah.
It's like to be continued, but it's just I felt strong enough at this point in my life to at least try. I did not want to get to the end of my life and regret that I didn't at least try. And to be honest, being that my adopted mom passed in 2016, I also felt a little bit more freedom to search for my biological mother because I knew I wouldn't hurt her. Because
Yeah.
my intention was never to hurt her. My intention was just to figure out my own identity,
Hmm.
which I think is half the struggle of what just led me and kept me on drugs for so many years, because I just didn't want to feel all that shit.
Yeah. I think that's pretty common among people who have been adopted. They just want to
Yes,
know, not because they, necessarily want to go live with the
right.
biological parents. They want to know where they come from,
Yes,
and do I look like my mom or do I look like my dad? Do I share any traits with them? And because we do tie our parents and our family into our identity so much, generally speaking.
yes, I
I
agree
know
with
for
you.
me, I do. I was raised by my parents. I look just like my dad. Um,
And then our daughter looks just like the both of them.
yeah, and but I was like, I want to know where we come from because I had always heard that we were, excuse me, of Irish descent. And so I
Okay.
did a DNA test and I did all kind of research and I finally found out that my family comes from County Cork, Ireland, and
Oh, wow.
I'm in today's world, DNA wise, I'm basically 100% Irish. I'm 70, right at 80% Irish
That's
DNA
amazing.
speaking. And, it's special to me. I'm proud that I'm Irish. I'm
Absolutely.
proud of my family and all that. So it makes a lot of sense, and we've talked about very seriously about adopting. And there's a whole story behind that. But we had the discussions. She said when they get old enough, when we do finally adopt, are we gonna tell them that they're adopted? And I said, yeah, I want them raised knowing that they're
Yeah.
adopted. I want them to know that because I want them not to, kids can be mean as you well know
Yes.
from your story, and oh well, you're adopted, you wasn't wanted. No, that means that you were adopted. It means we chose you. We chose to raise you. That wasn't a, oh, we're find out that we're pregnant and we're going to raise this kid like most people do, and we do have our own and everything. And her oldest is my stepdaughter, but um it's like, to me, I would want to raise them in a way that says you can be proud that you're adopted because we found you and we wanted you, and that's special. And if you want to go look for your biological parents, by all means, please do. Because
I
to
was gonna
me,
say
it's
my only suggestion is that
mhm,
if that's the case, you have those biological parents involved from the beginning, if at all
mhm,
That's what I
possible.
was thinking. Yeah.
Have there be
Open
some type of
adoption.
I mean, an open, I mean, some
Yeah.
states don't even do open adoption, but the language is changing a lot. I mean, I used to hear you were chosen, and I used to
mhm.
think that was a really nice thing to hear until I got older. And you need to read this book called The Primal Wound. If you're going to adopt a child, read that book, The Primal Wound.
Primal wound,
Wound, yes.
wound. I'm
W
writing
O
it down.
U.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, definitely read
Because I'll
that book.
forget, so I got to make a
Yeah,
note.
no, that's fine. No, for anybody who's going to adopt, please read that book
Yeah.
because it just gives you a different perspective with how certain wording that you're using in the very best of intentions,
Hmm.
how later on in life, when you kind of look back at some of that, doesn't sit so well anymore.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Well,
it's
I'm
a
glad I
good
brought it
thing.
up.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I'm still of the belief that, see, I had to stop being in some of these adoption Facebook groups because there are some very angry, angry adopted people in those groups. And it became, I felt not safe in some of those groups because they are very mad at the whole adoption process. Me, on the other hand, I mean, what's the alternative? Just leave these kids to sit there with no families, no love. I mean,
Hmm.
the way I look at it is, one, I'm grateful that, I used to be very pissed at my biological mother too. I had a lot of resentment towards her, a lot of
Hmm.
resentment, until I started working the steps and I realized, you know what? No, I'm grateful that she gave birth to me and gave me the opportunity for a life,
Hmm.
and then I'm also grateful that my adopted parents did the best they could with what they had. They did not back then. There weren't as many resources as there are now. There's lots
Hmm.
of resources, but if you join any of those, adoptive parent groups, be careful because there's some
Yeah.
angry people in there who still think that, that these are babies that are being sold and it's
Hmm.
very uncalled for. And I mean, some of the stuff I do agree with, but for the most part, I mean, what would my alternative have been had I didn't get
Yeah.
the family that I got? I mean, and granted, there are some people that get adopted and end up in some crap situations. So
Yeah.
Hmm.
and they left a crap situation into a crap situation. But
Yeah.
I was not one of those people. I was very fortunate that they gave me a great life. They
Yeah.
really did. And the fact that my adoptive father was able to see me get clean is just a miracle. And to hear my dad tell me that he's proud of me and to tell me that he thinks that my mom would be proud of me is everything. And 3 years ago, I bought my very own house on my own, from being
Nice.
in recovery. I started with I think when I got clean, I started with a credit score of like 350. It was like 350 when I first started this journey. And now, as I'm about to be 7 years clean, I think I'm at like 770. So it's like, because I was on a mission. I'm like, I am behind the gun. I'm doing all this way too late in my life, and to see that my kid is proud of me and they're very involved in, because I do all like the NA Friends givings and the Christmas stuff. And my kid goes with me to all those things. They know my kid in the room. So I mean, I love that they believe in my recovery. They're very proud of me. They like the fact that I'm very much somebody who's into, you have to recover out loud. You have to, because we need to break the stigma of addiction and all the harmful words that are still being used. I mean, it's sad, that a lot of that stuff is still out there, but we just have to keep pushing forward and keep trying to help the next one.
Yeah, and that's partially why we want to do what we're doing here is like you said, recover loudly.
Yeah.
Be proud of it.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yes.
it's an accomplishment. You know, somebody
It's
who's been through addiction or trauma or anything like that, because you know we this show and what we're doing is you know, not necessarily just addiction, but recovery from, well, as I say on here, you know, recovery from anything except maybe the gym, which I can help you with, just not on here. Um, is what we want to do because
yes.
somebody who's been through something like that and made it to the other side successfully really can accomplish anything
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
it's, you know, there's very few things in you know, in my view, in my opinion, there's very few things that in life that are going to be more challenging than what you've already been through and already accomplished. So business, school stuff, you know, whatever, you know, starting your own business or um, whatever you're looking at doing is not going to be, it'll be challenging in other ways, but you
Yes.
always have this thing in your mind if you view it the right way of, oh, I've already made it through all this other stuff. I can make it
Yes,
through
indeed.
this, you know. And so it's something, you know, to me, it's something to be proud of. Look at what I've accomplished with overcoming all this stuff. Now I want to turn around and look back down the mountain to the people who are still climbing up the mountain and reach out a hand and help pull them up where I'm
Yes.
at. So
Yeah.
that's I like that you said that. That's very nice.
I feel like that's why we're all here. Is
Yeah.
everybody, there's nobody that gets to this life without trauma. Everybody has trauma. Everybody's
Mhm.
recovering, as you said, from something. So
Mm-hmm.
once you get through to the other side, I feel like as a human being, our job is to turn around and help the next one. If we can help some other people avoid the pitfalls that we went through, I mean,
Yeah.
why wouldn't we do that? I mean, and it is definitely a recovery. I'm very proud to be a recovering addict. I will scream it from the rooftops and
Mm-hmm.
I don't regret this, even all the trauma that I went through. I don't regret anything I went through because it made me the person that I am right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's what we talk about with my stuff. I think it was, I went to the church that he grew up in. I went and I spoke and gave my testimony to all the teenagers. And that was one of the things that one of the kids asked was if I could go back, if I would change anything knowing what I know now. And I was like, no. Said because if I hadn't gone through those things, then I wouldn't be where I am today. If I
Absolutely.
hadn't have went through the stuff with my boyfriend John, that he killed himself. Today's actually his birthday. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
Today's his birthday.
I saw your Facebook post.
Yeah,
Wow.
today he would have been. I can't remember what our age difference was. I think he would have been turning 31 this year. He died when he was still. I don't even think he made it to 19 yet. I
Wow.
can't remember because we had an age difference, and I can't remember what it was. I can't remember if he was 18 or 19 when he died. Uh, but no, he was 19 because he would have been turning 20 that September. That's what it was. But but that's one of the things that they asked. They're like, would you have, if you knew then what you know now, would you have, stayed with him? Would you have, even dated him? Would you do this? And I'm like, yeah, because then if
Right.
that hadn't happened, then I wouldn't have met my oldest daughter's father. I would not have my oldest daughter right now.
Yep.
And then if I hadn't gone through my spiral that I did, I would have never ended up in the church that I was at the day that me and him reconnected because we went to middle school together.
Well,
And so if I hadn't have been in that specific place in that time, me and him would have never reconnected. We wouldn't have our daughter that we have now.
that's
So
amazing.
yeah, so there's a lot of things that if I hadn't gone through A, B, and C, then I wouldn't be right here at this moment. So
God has a way of making things, you know, well, it says in the Bible that he works all things to the good of those who love him, but it's I think another gift that we have that maybe we don't really think about being a gift because it's just a natural thing is our the gift of memory.
mm-hmm.
because when we reach a certain point, or any point, even if you're in a bad spot, we have the gift of memory, which allows us to see our life at least as far back as we can remember.
Yeah.
Which for me isn't that far,
I was
but
about to say, me, I don't remember that much.
but from as far back as we can remember until the day that we're at right now, and see how all these little pieces fit together.
Yeah.
And we can see that life it's not a linear line from A to B, but it's more like A and then a bowl of spaghetti and then B. Um, and none of us would be who we are if we hadn't have gone through the struggles that we went through. The good things that happened are great, and we're thankful for them. But the character is built, and the lessons are learned from the losses and from the
Yeah.
hardships and from the bad decisions and the mistakes and how we overcome traumas and how we deal with people and all of these things. And I think that you're a good example of that.
Yeah.
I mean, to do everything that you have done since you're you started your recovery and everything is proof of that. Look at what you're doing for all these people because of what you went through. That's just, it's encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something to be proud of, and I'm glad that you are proud of it.
Me
I'm
too.
very proud of it. I love my job. I love it. I love working with those clients. They do. They keep me clean, and just watch. Of course I hate that I can't save everybody. I have to remember that I have no control over
Yeah.
saving them, and they have to they have to be ready to surrender themselves. But when I can see someone come in and they're so broken that first day, and when I'm watching them discharge, I get to discharge the same person, and I see that the hope has come back in their eyes. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
That is absolutely incredible. Because I made the mistake of Googling myself not too long. Why I did that, I don't know. I Googled myself, and of course, I found a mugshot of mine. And that wasn't a very, and I was looking at this mugshot of myself, and just, there was nothing behind my eyes. Like I could just
Mm-hmm.
see that I was dead.
It sounds like you're going through a lot.
My phone is now talking to me. It
Yeah,
feels
mine does that
I
too.
would
It's
say
weird.
his does that all the time to us.
like Gemini all of a sudden turned on for some reason. I
Yeah,
don't
Yeah.
know.
yeah.
Um,
I didn't understand
but
what you said. That's because I wasn't talking to you.
exactly. But yeah, seeing that mugshot was crazy because I'm like, I looked just dead. There was no life behind those eyes. So yeah, you can look and I primarily do a lot of the admissions at my location, and I love being the admission nurse because I create that safe space for that person on what might be the worst day of their life. And I've
Yeah.
had many a client be like, "Thank you for not judging me." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I am you. I'm not going to judge you." Like it just, and being a recovering addict in my job is a superpower. I mean, it literally is an asset in my job to be able to be a recovering addict and be able to establish that kind of rapport with the clients that come through, because they know that I get it, that I understand. It may not be the exact same journey, but we do have addiction and recovery in common.
Yeah, I mean, you can have a conversation with somebody that I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
My well, I mean, I guess I could in a way. Mine was alcohol. That was my I never did any kind of drugs, but I I really liked Heineken and Guinness,
Alcohol is a
you know.
drug.
And you said something earlier actually that reminded me of me. It was when I think you were um you said you felt like you were not that you were clean, but you were still drinking and smoking weed, and you're like, well, I'm not on the drugs that I was on, so I can't be an addict. I think something like that.
Yeah.
And when I was still drinking, she said a similar thing to me. She said, "You do realize you're an alcoholic, right?" And I said, "No, I'm not. I can go to work just fine. I work, Monday through whatever, and I'm perfectly fine. I don't have an issue." I don't remember what you said after that, but it was like it made me look, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, I guess that is a problem," because I was the type that once I drank one, I was going to drink everything that was in the house or
Absolutely.
wherever I was at. And then I would go buy more until I just blacked out and passed out somewhere.
Called a binge alcoholic.
Yeah. And
That's what I am too.
she looked at me and she said, "What do you think this does to me? Being in recovery myself and seeing you, do what you do. What do you?"
I told him he's essentially, I said, what you're doing is essentially, because heroin and meth are my drugs of choice, and Xanax in the beginning. But, I told him, I said, you're essentially taking a bunch of heroin and sitting it in front of my face.
Yep.
Is what you're doing when you're acting like that. He goes, no, I'm not. He said, I'm not doing anything like that. I said, but the way that you're acting when you're doing that, when I'm freshly out of recovery, because I even started drinking with him in the beginning when I first got home from rehab too. And I was like, it's causing me to do the same thing. Now I can still, like, every now and then, I'll have like a day where I go and I hang out with my friends and I'll drink, but it's like what he said. I drink so much that I end up just in a bad way. So that's why now I've decided after the last time, because I'll do like really, really rare occasions, like a friend's birthday or another one of my friend's dogs passed away. And it was her dog. She had him, what, 10 years? Yeah, he was like 10 years old. So that was like a dog for all of us, But after those times I told him, I said, I can't do it. I said, it's too much on my body. It's just too much of a reminder of the other stuff. I can't do it. And there's some addicts that, they can still, I know a lot of them that they got clean and they're still out drinking every weekend and, going about their business. And I'm like, well, if that's how you want to do it, then okay.
Right.
But that
Right.
don't, I
It
can't do
doesn't
it
work
no
that
more.
way for me.
Yeah, I can't do it no more.
I can't do that either. No,
Yeah.
I can't be California sober either. I can't smoke
Yeah.
weed and think that that's not
Yeah.
going to lead me down the rabbit hole into something
Yeah.
else.
California sober.
I like that. California sober.
I've never heard that
I
term.
feel like I have. I feel like
I haven't.
I've heard such a
Oh
thing.
wow! I can't
California
believe you
sober.
never heard that. That's very common. We say that a lot around here because we got a lot of people that still smoke weed because it being legal and all that, still smoke weed and think that everything's fine. And that's where I had to kind of tell people at my job that, okay, when people come in and they'll tell me, I do heroin, I do meth, and I smoke weed. Okay, well, what are you having issues with heroin and meth? Do you feel that marijuana is a problem? No. Well, then I don't even focus on that marijuana. I only focus on the heroin and the meth because it'll all come in due time. Who am I to tell you that maybe that's what you need in that? Maybe that's your harm reduction. Maybe it's better that you smoke the weed than doing the heroin and the meth. But I know for me, I can't do any mind or mood altering substances because that will just unleash the beast. I can't do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a personal thing.
Yeah.
It is a personal thing.
I don't know, it's a touchy subject, but
It is.
I don't really care if it's a touchy subject, to be honest. I'm just me and people can like it or not. I don't care. I think that if it's something, I would much rather somebody smoke weed than kill themselves. I would much rather somebody smoke weed than go off and do heroin or meth that can be laced with fentanyl, and then that's the last thing they ever
Amen.
do.
Yes,
But
indeed.
it is.
But also make sure that your weed is not laced with fentanyl.
Exactly, that's what I was
Because now
about to
that's
say,
the
yeah.
thing.
Correct. If you're going to
gonna
buy
smoke
buy it
weed.
from a dispensary.
Yes.
Exactly
Yep.
what I was about to say. Yeah, get it from a dispensary, get the little pins from the shops, like
Yeah,
don't buy it off
I
the dope
wouldn't say
dealer
and
on
go
the
and buy it
street.
from your buddy down the road.
yeah.
You're correct.
Because that's what I was talking to someone the other day that he was telling me that he knew of like a close friend or somebody that they had gotten a hold of some weed that they had bought from a friend, and all of a sudden he started overdosing because it was laced with fentanyl.
Well, he had also been sober for.
No, that was a different story.
Oh, that was a different one.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that was a second time in like in a matter of 3 days that I'd heard a story like that. When I got I don't know if you can see it, but I got a tattoo for my brother that just passed away.
Oh, I'm so
And
sorry.
thank you. And the lady that was doing it, I just talked about it on last night's episode that we did, but
last week when this comes out.
Yeah. But the lady, she was essentially telling me that a friend of hers who had been sober for a while, he still was smoking weed because it just, it relaxed him because of anxiety and all these things. And he bought some weed from somebody, and a couple hours later, he kept the door at the house unlocked because he was trying to prove to everybody that he was genuinely trying to stay sober and do good. And a buddy of his came over and noticed that his house was locked. And so they busted the door down, came in there, and they found him. And he had overdosed. And it was just off of one hit of that. And the person that sold it to him, she admitted to somebody and she said, yeah, I sold it to him and I knew that it had it in there, but I had to provide for my family too. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I looked at that girl that told me that. I said, and you didn't kick their behind? Because I would have been getting escorted out of that. They would have been having to escort me out of that funeral.
Holy.
I would have been knocking somebody out. They told me that.
So providing for your family gives you the right to intentionally kill somebody else?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to you and know that it's probably going to kill you, but I got to feed my family.
Right.
Huh?
I would rather you just ask me for the money.
Yeah, because they needed the money. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, when she told me that, I was like, if I wasn't getting a tattoo done, I would have been jumping. I was like, what?
That's horrible. That's what
I literally
she told me
I was literally sitting there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I for 5 minutes after she told me that, I was literally just sitting there, just randomly shaking my head. Like, I could not believe what I had just heard. I was like, that is just insanity.
That is insanity.
Like, it's
that
sad
you would actually outwardly admit that to someone.
Yes. Yeah. It's just an everyday conversation. Like,
well, that's the other thing. Aside from the fact that you did that just because you needed the money, the person is stupid enough to say that out loud.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, she told me. She said she wished she would have been recording.
Yeah, really. Can you say that again the same exact way? Don't pay attention to the phone. Just
right. As I march this down to the police department.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me, and then aside from that, then you have the people who have never struggled with any kind of addiction or anything. And because we've had people comment, I say all the time, or I try to say all the time, that the Facebook page and here, whatever platforms we're on, are, I don't like using the term safe space. But it's, this is where you can talk about it. This is where we want you to talk about it. Right. And you're not allowed, no one's allowed to have the derogatory comments and stuff like that. That stuff gets dealt with very quickly. So we've had people who have the comments get, taken care of, but we've had people comment and say, to a short or something that we post on YouTube or something that, hey, how about you just don't do drugs?
Like, I would love to have not done that.
Laugh when people say that.
Thank you for telling me that.
Yes, thank you. I wish it was
I
so
never
easy.
thought of that.
Oh my God, that's blowing.
Wow. Nancy Reagan made sure we had that thought.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, it's like, and to those people who see that, you are part of the problem.
Yeah.
And you need to keep your mouth shut. Unless you understand, you don't have a right to speak to it.
Yeah.
But I'm proud to have people like you that are willing to tear.
Words are hard.
Plus, I'm getting kind of worked up. The camera can't see it, but I'm starting to shake.
He gets fired up sometimes.
I get.
Well, I mean, that was something to get fired up about.
Yeah.
The lady that we had on, Jeannie, we had filmed her interview yesterday.
No, that was the day before yesterday.
Was it?
Yeah, last night was Mitzi. Man,
they're all running together. We've had them all in a row. But the people like yourself and them and the ones coming up that are willing to tell their story on here, it's very brave.
Mm-hmm.
And we're grateful to have people that are brave enough to tell their story. Because it's one thing when you're a successful person to say, "Hey, look at what I've accomplished." It's another thing when you're a successful person and look back and say, "Look at what I went through to get here." Um,
Yeah.
that's something that we're proud to have in our community, I guess, and proud to have highlight on our YouTube and proud of the individuals, you and them, and proud because of what y'all have accomplished, what y'all have done, and just thank you for being willing to encourage somebody else who may not be quite where you are yet, but they're trying. That's a big deal.
It is a
So
big
thank
deal.
you.
Thank you. Do you have
Anything you
any
want to
other
say?
questions or anything else you'd like to know? Or
It's kind of a not really relevant question, but it's something that's been bugging me since the beginning of the conversation. Your son's dad, is he the one that you met when you went to the what was it called? When you were
believe it
a
or not, my
teenager.
son's father didn't even make it into this conversation.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay.
Well, that's not what I'm trying. The one that you were with that you were supposed to get married to, was he the one that you met when you went to that place when you were a teenager?
No, no.
No.
Um,
Okay.
I met he was a blind date, but he might as well be. He was more of a father to my kid than his own father, so he was around for
Okay.
a very long time.
Okay.
Uh, yeah,
Okay. 'Cause I remember
I've
you were
never.
saying you met the guy in the when you were in the rehab and stuff, and then the other one, so I got
Yeah, that was my
lost.
rehab romance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have tended not to have a very good picker, and when it comes to significant others. But according to my therapist now, when I tried to complain to her about that, she's like, "You don't have a bad picker anymore. You just know what your worth is now. You know what you bring to
Mm-hmm.
the table." So I see the red flags well ahead of time, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's taken me so long to become independent and stand on my own 2 feet much later in life than one normally would, that I kind of have really valued this space that I've carved out for myself. I have not been in a relationship, and I don't really. I'm also here to tell people you don't have to be in a relationship to be happy. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
happy without one. Only because, I have a dog and a cat who's psychotic. I have a wonderful relationship with my kid, my best friend of 40 some years, my dad, my job. So it's like I have healthy things in my life going on. And I
Yeah.
just, if God sees fit somewhere in my life to bring somebody into my life that is meant for me, then fine, I'll welcome it. But I don't like dating apps. I've met some scary people on dating apps, and I refuse to do it
Oh yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there are, and I've watched way too much true crime. So it's like, and because of that, there's some scary people out there. And,
Yeah.
I grew up where everything was organically. There weren't any dating apps, if I didn't meet the person in
Hmm.
person, and now I just,
Yeah.
if it's meant to happen, I guess it will happen. But as of right now, it's taken me a long time to get to the point where I'm just happy with me. I can look in the mirror and be happy, and know that, I'm not so codependent anymore either, because that was a huge part
Yeah.
of my addiction, was also the codependency. So, we have
Yeah.
worked on that piece as well. The codependent, maybe a little codependent on my dog, but other than that.
Yeah, that's what we try to work on with me and him, like that I don't get too codependent on him because I have really bad codependent issues. Like when I was leaving, it was before I left. I didn't even graduate the program. I left because I'd had 2 relapses in the program and I had to restart twice. And after that second one, I started all the way at the beginning and I was just like, I don't want to do this. I wanted to get back home and try to, get to working on my custody situation with my oldest daughter. And so I was praying with God and I told him, I said, I will not chase after men anymore. Because my second relapse, but my 2 relapses in the program were with the same guy. And so after that, I told God, I said, I will not try to, find boyfriends, date anybody until I know that you sent them to me. So then I get home, and then literally I left on a Friday. I relapsed the night that I got home. My mom came and picked me up from a motel on like one of the worst streets that we have out here. And then she was like, "Look, if you're coming with me, then you're going to go with me to church tomorrow. It's Meet the Pastor Day. And we're going to go and we're going to have pizza with the pastors. And we're going to have a good time." I was like, "Okay, that's whatever." So she takes me, and then he was playing the drums and happened to notice me. And he doesn't remember this part. He actually texted me that morning, and I never even saw the message. And then he sees me when he was playing the drums, and then he texted me again and said, "Hey, this is a weird question, but do you happen to be at I don't know if we can say the church's name on here, but
Church.
yeah, do you happen to be at the church?" and so I was so just not even thinking when we were looking up when I was watching, because I was still high from Friday night, so there was there was an old man playing one set of drums, and he was playing the other one. So when he texted me and said he was playing the drums, I said, "Which guy were you?" Because I couldn't tell if the other guy was an old man. He goes, "Well, not the old guy. I'm the young." But so, me and him started texting, and I didn't want to hang out with him. I was just like, I didn't want to focus on any guys. I didn't want nothing to do with anybody. And my mom was like, "Well, you either hang out with him or you're going to be stuck here with me and your grandma this whole time. You can't go hang out with anybody else. He's the only person you can hang out with if you want to leave." And I was like, "Fine, whatever." So I begrudgingly, how do you say that word? You can't even say it.
Begrudgingly.
Yes.
Yeah,
that. Hung out with him. And then I slowly started being like, "Okay, he's cool. All right, whatever." And we just slowly started just like, I think it got to we were hanging out every single night.
pretty much.
Yeah, we were hanging out just about every night when he would get off of work. He would come pick me up. We'd go hang out. And I took him, well, technically he took me to church at the place where I went to rehab at. And the pastor, who was always the one telling me not to date anybody, he was saying, "You need to focus on yourself. You don't need to keep chasing after these boys. You need to quit worrying about guys." He literally, me and Dylan go up there and see him, and he literally starts praying with me and Dylan about God blessing our relationship. And we hadn't even officially started dating yet.
My goodness.
And I was like, "Okay, well, maybe that's my sign then." So we ended up having a talk, and I told him that, I thought I was ready, which was really weird because after I told him that, he kissed me a couple weeks later, and I had a total meltdown on him. Like, shoved him away, started screaming. Like, I don't know what happened that night. I had like a PTSD moment or something. I don't know.
There was a lot of traumas we worked through.
Yeah. But we got engaged 6 months in of dating.
Oh.
And then got married 6 months later. And we've been married for be 5 years in January, right?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So, some days I do think maybe I am still codependent because I did jump into it so quickly with him, but I've also been able to, go days without him living here. I don't have to text him all day, every day.
Months.
Yeah, I went months. I went like 4 or 5 months without him living with me when he tried to join the military.
Yeah, that didn't go well.
Yeah. So, and I don't have to be like how I used to be with all my exes, like when I'm at work, like texting the entire time. We'll barely even talk to each other when we're working.
I mean, that's
like,
healthy.
there's some days that I've told him, I said, I just feel like it's just 2 best friends that live together and pew together. And that's it. Which I guess that's how marriage is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know, but it works.
Yeah.
I think everybody's different, but yeah, I don't know how long we've even been talking.
I don't either. I know she's
I don't have a
It's
countdown
Hour
thing.
and a half.
What was that?
It's almost an hour and a half.
Oh wow.
wow.
I was trying to keep this at an hour.
Yeah.
Well, shot that one.
I was feeling horrible at an hour. I would have cut you off.
Well, I know that you're, not feeling well. So aside from thanking you for being on here, for being, willing to talk with us, thank you for coming on here while being sick.
Yeah.
Thank you. But
It was
is there
important.
anything else that you want to say or anything? You good or?
Think I'm good.
All right. Well,
When will it? Because I want to have my my kid listen to this podcast. So how do I? When will you send me a message when it's going to air? Or
Yeah.
yeah, we'll send you a
Yeah.
message. It'll be
Okay.
We just posted one today
yesterday.
and then yesterday
Post another one
next week, and then we have to post Mitzi's the week after next. So the week after that, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Look
3
at your
weeks.
calendar on your phone.
So
That
3
should give us a better
weeks.
idea because we post on Mondays.
Okay, so this is the
He's looking on his calendar to see
18th.
what
So
Monday
that'll be like the first week of October.
it should be. Yeah, because I know we have I have an interview set with somebody on the 23rd, which would technically be next week. So it should be.
Why do I have a Stranger Things thing on my
I
calendar?
don't know, babe. Trying to
Sorry. What?
just try to give her an
Yeah, it'd
exact date.
be.
I think it's the first
it'd
week of
be,
October.
Yeah,
yeah,
should be the first Monday.
be the 6th.
Yeah, October 6th.
Are you kidding me? That's my clean date.
Wow.
Serious?
I just got
Yeah,
chills.
That's my clean date. Oh
I
my
just got chills. That's awesome.
Ain't
Oh
God
my
funny.
goodness.
That is so
Wow.
cool.
That
We usually
wow.
post them around
that just gave
12
me
o'clock. Huh?
that just gave me the goosebumps.
I know. I got goosebumps when you said that.
Oh my gosh. Well, I will not forget then.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll send you a. We'll let you know. We'll send you a message and be like,
Yeah.
hey, it's up, it's posted.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we post all over the Facebook page.
Yeah.
Shorts and
So
all.
I'll message you as soon as he puts it on YouTube. I'll send you a personal message, be like, hey, we just posted it.
Okay.
And then, you can, we like to encourage people to share because we also will post clips of it too. We'll post the actual video. And then for that entire week, I'll be posting different clips of the video, like shorts of the
Okay.
video.
Okay.
So
yeah,
if
I
you
will
want to
gladly
share, yeah, if you want to share the clips and stuff too, whenever they're posted, if it's something that, depending on what it's different videos, he doesn't really decide what they talk, like which things it is we're talking about on it. So if it's something we're talking about and you want to share it, you can
Okay.
do that.
All right. Sounds good.
Susanna, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you,
Yes.
Dylan. Thank you.
And it's been a pleasure to get to speak with you and hear your story, and it's very encouraging. And I know that somebody or people will be encouraged by your story and hopefully feel that nudge of, hey, you know what, there's stuff that I need to work on, and there are people that will help me work on it.
Absolutely.
You don't have to do anything alone. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll be in touch. So
Sounds
please get
good.
to feeling better and rest
Yes.
and
Thank you.
all that good stuff. And we'll be in touch with you.
All right. Thanks. You have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.